So I made a joke last time I did this review saying how this next thing was sort of going to be a fight series, which, of course, it's not actually a tournament series. It's sort of the Fire Rookie games, I guess. It was supposed to be games. Yeah, that happened. Let's get started. So unlike the other show that I watched, Fairy Tail, we actually got more information in the opening, followed by the rest of the episode. So at the very beginning of the episode, we actually got to see an entire sort of breakdown of how the world works. It's bizarre. It's really weird. The whole world is sort of broken down into this scattered remnant group. Remnants, like the map from RWBY. Anyway, it's scattered apart. It's got all these fragments of continents, and the only solid continent is in Tokyo, or the only solid part of a continent, rather, is Tokyo with different districts. So it's kind of some interesting world building, and I really want to see how things progress from here, because I'm actually really excited to see what happens and some of the details we got in this episode. I want to see those details followed up on. So this is probably the first time in a while I've watched an opening that actually has a ton of information in it, because, well, let's be fair, I've been watching Fairy Tail a lot. We also see a new character, as well as the character from the fire that we had to deal with last episode, and we learn more about the character Joker. We don't learn a whole lot about this sort of mystery man who was not only in this opening scene, but also in the games when they were starting. So I don't know who this guy is, but we did learn who Joker is, and that gets really good. And we also learn, we learn a whole lot in this first bit. We also learn about Obi and the fact that he has not exactly been on the best of terms with most of the fire groups, and Company 8 was basically built around someone that they could trust because they need him to investigate the other fire companies. And this was something that wasn't revealed till the very end of the episode, but it was revealed because of what happened throughout the episode. So let's get into more of this episode. So in the last episode, I talked about how I think I found Best Girl, and then everybody was telling me that Best Girl hadn't been introduced yet, and I'm kind of seeing why people think that Tamaki Kotatsu is the Best Girl. So we were essentially introduced to seemingly a very fan-servicey character. She's got her fire suit open, and she's got these cuts in the sides of her pants, and it was just this really awkward sort of interaction between her and Shinra. But we did learn at least why her pants had the cuts in the side, because she makes two tails out of fire. She's got some Nekopara fire ability. But yeah, so she definitely had an interesting interaction with Shinra at the start. We'll just put it that way. But I don't know. I'll stick with my opinion for right now, because right now I don't feel like there has been as much character development. She doesn't have as much of a personality. She's got a personality, but it hasn't been developed enough for me to really make an attachment to the character yet. She's basically just been there to be groped by Shinra and then fights a bit, which her fighting actually was pretty cool. I was kind of impressed by the way that her abilities work. I just want to see more of it. Either way, getting on to the other parts of the episode, we also have Shinra finding and trying to get more information out of one of the Company 1 officers. I believe he was the actual commander of Fire Force Group 1, or Company 1, who was involved in the fire that actually took Shinra's mother and presumably his little brother, but we learn more about that later. And he says that, sorry, you can't expect me to remember a detail about a fire 12 years ago, but Shinra very clearly knows that he's hiding something, and we learn later that the other guy, is actually hiding something. But either way, he's cut off. He has to go and start with the games, and this is where things get really interesting, because the idea is that they have to save the people in a mock building fire scenario, and while they're saving those people, they then have to take out somebody who's pretending to be an infernal. And things kind of just take a turn from there. So Shinra uses his fire ability to take off and get into the building higher up, and essentially shortcut most of the initial sort of area that he would have had to cover as if he had to run in with everybody else, or Naruto run in the case of Tamaki. This is, of course, also the first time that we see Tamaki's ability, which is why then her wardrobe choice kind of makes a bit more sense. Either way, Shinra gets into the building, and we are finally introduced to Joker, who has infiltrated the games, takes out the two people who are supposed to be saved, and begins fighting with Shinra. And the animation in this was definitely not up to the par that they had kind of set with some other episodes. Like, there were still some pretty good points, like especially when he's flipping around with his wind or spinning kicks or whatever they called them. That was pretty much like the top animation for this episode. There were some kind of weirder, jankier animations at the start of the episode or the start of the fight, but otherwise this pretty much made up for it. And man, Joker is a hell of a character. And he is like, I like how he's using, it doesn't seem like he has any, well, no, he does have some kind of pyrokinetic abilities, but it seems like he relies a lot on assistance, like the ashes that explode and stuff like that. I don't really know what his abilities are, but we have Shinra fighting with him doing as best as he can and still getting pretty walloped by this guy. And even at the point where they sort of... It's so weird to try to describe this because I'm not sure exactly what Joker was getting at. Basically, Joker easily handled Shinra, or at least it seemed like he easily handled Shinra. And then once Shinra was down, he's going to kill him. Joker's going to kill Shinra. And because of Shinra's weird like smile when he's nervous thing, he has this just evil looking smile on his face, and Joker then goes, okay, you've earned a reward, your brother's alive. That's quite an info drop to just dump on him right now. Okay, so one of the main reasons he joined the Fire Force was to, I guess, avenge them, and apparently his brother's alive. I mean, it's been introduced early on enough in the episode, or early on enough in the season, that it doesn't feel like this tacked on story point. It actually feels like something that could be played out and very well developed in this series. And I'm really hoping that they do develop it and that they develop it well, because I've seen so many shows where it's sort of like right towards the end, it's like, by the way, so-and-so's alive, finish the season and then we're done. And it's just the most unsatisfying way to go about it. So by introducing it in episode 3 instead of like episode 10 of 12, then this is a way better way to go about this. But on top of this revelation, we also have sort of a moment where very clearly Shinra and Joker can see it in Shinra's eyes. Shinra has an idea of the fact that people might be hiding things. There might not be the same pure intentions that Shinra has. He joined for a very pure intention, but there may not be the same pure intentions that he seems to think that everybody in the Fire Force has. They have something to be hidden. There's something wrong. Something's not right. And Shinra is kind of now realizing this by thinking back to Company 1's commander and realizing maybe he was actually hiding something, and that thing he was hiding was the fact that his brother's still alive. But of course, Joker tries to play into this, saying, like, you are realizing the corruption, you're kind of seeing the lies and the fact that they're hiding things, so why don't I give you 2 choices? You can stick around and be a hero, or you can be a devil and come with me. And this is where Shinra's kind of set off as like, nah, I'm not doing that, because if those are the 2 choices, he's going to keep being a hero either way. He's got a very pure heart, very pure intentions with what he's doing. I really admire that in the character. I think that the fact that they, as the writing team, they have set a very specific, very strict, like, this is how he is, that definitely makes him feel much more like a relatable character, because he has values that he sticks to. But in this instance, he's now killed enough time that we've got other people showing up now. Granted, that's not to say that him killing time has been boring in any way, because that was one of the most epic fights. Like I said, the kicking that he did and that animation was awesome. And I also want to point out the art style that they use for Joker and the smile and the hard line shadows. Like, this is where I really get sort of the Soul Eater vibe of the art style, and that, and the building designs. Like, the building designs also really have this sort of, it reminds me a lot of like Soul Eater and the city in that show. I think I really can see it in this, and I love it. Either way, Shinra wastes enough time or fights long enough that Arthur and Tamaki show up, and this is where the fight kind of gets interesting, because we kind of see how Joker handles himself in a 3-on-1 scenario. And he handles himself very well. Granted, like, oh god, Shinra's trying to tell them, you need to save these people because this guy has infiltrated the game, he's attacked 2 people, go tell somebody. Arthur ignores him, Tamaki ignores him, and they go and attack him, and they almost get exploded. Shinra saves Tamaki, and apart from that, God. Yeah, because they ignored Shinra's warning, Joker basically just says, all right, I'm going to throw a bunch of ash around and blow the building up. You have to save these people. And then he leaves. And so now Shinra has to save both Arthur, Tamaki, and the two guys, the two officers who had been taken out by this guy. Granted, he does succeed in doing so. He rockets all of them out and sends them very high in the air. He then lets go of Tamaki and Arthur. Arthur and Tamaki are now falling. Arthur is kind of just falling, going like, oh, well, you know, this is the end for us. Shinra can, of course, stop himself and hold on to these guys and land. Tamaki is saved by her commander for Company 1, and yeah, Arthur. Oh boy, Arthur. So he falls and gets caught by his company, Company 8. He hits the ground pretty hard, and he compliments how, you know, thank God everybody's so muscular. And I think the running joke now with Maki is that anytime somebody says something that she doesn't like, that it has to do with her strength or her how muscular she is or anything like that, or how brutish she is, she just kind of takes it to the next level with something that wasn't said, but she kind of like fills in the blanks herself. It's kind of funny. But after all this happens, after this whole escapade, it's then when they're putting out the fire later in the evening that we have Obi talking with Shinra, and we get a bit more about what each group kind of does. So this is where things get really interesting. We get more into world building, which I liked about this episode. It was a very world building centric episode, which I'm all right with. I always love building worlds, especially early on in the series, so that way we're not like piecing things together at the end. So we learn, of course, Company 1 is very influenced by the church. We've got one company influenced by the military, one influenced by a company whose name I don't remember. And then we have Company 8, and Company 8 is the one that is primarily working to investigate these other companies and figure out what they're up to. And apparently one of the companies already knows what causes the infernals, or at least there's an assumption that one of them already knows what causes the infernals. So it's at this point that we kind of see a lot more happening overall with these characters, and I really want to know more about what causes the infernals, which I don't think we're really going to know anytime soon, but also which company knows at this point. My guess is Company 1, and that's just because it's the only other company we've really seen and interacted with in any major way, and it was basically with Tamaki and the fire captain. But of course, Shinra offers his assistance in this because he, of course, has a tie, a reason to be there, a tie to this sort of stuff. So having his commitment and having somebody that Obi can trust, considering that Obi is the one that whoever set up Company 8, they can trust Obi completely. Now Obi has somebody he can trust completely. And the whole Company 8 was built around that. And of course we get more information on that at the beginning of the episode about why Company 8 exists and all that. And it's nice to see this all kind of tie together in one episode of like seeing people talking about why Company 8 exists, to Obi telling it as it is why Company 8 exists, and now having more reason to root for these guys. And this overall was actually a really good episode for that and just general world building. Because in this episode we're introduced to a new character, mainly two new characters, 3 if you count Joker, but I'm kind of talking in terms of just fire companies. Overall, yeah, Joker, whoever the dude is at the beginning who we still don't know who he is, Tamaki, the fire captain for Company 1, Joker, all this fun stuff. I think I said Joker twice, but whatever. We learn more about the world. We learn how or why Tokyo is sort of the main hub. We learn about all the other places that have kind of just broken off and are like fragments of continents, and how things are constantly changing around the world. And it's the weirdest thing, like the way the world's set up, but it's really cool. And overall, like this episode just did a solid job of building the world, making us more invested in the characters, hyping us up. Me personally, hyping me up for the next episode. I love it. And I'm also kind of glad that there are no previews at the end, not because it's going to spoil me or anything, but mainly because it means that people aren't going to complain that I'm watching the previews and getting spoiled for the next episode. So anyway, that's my little thing. So overall, great episode. I am still fully invested in this show. I want to see more of it. I'm super glad it's back. I know it took a 1-week break, but really glad it's back, and I'm excited to watch more of it. So hope you guys enjoyed this too. Check out the links in the description where you can watch this. And apart from that, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Make sure to be there and have a good one.